Okay, Jai Hind everyone.
Jain sir.
I hope all well.
Yes sir.
Okay, today we'll be having a special session on a current issue, global issue, in fact, that is what is happening in Russia and Ukraine. But why we are discussing it? As a brief introduction, we will speak first that, and we will see how many participants are ready to speak on the topic. Those who are comfortable can switch on their camera and others can just do whatever way you are comfortable, no issue. Okay, before I start, any doubt or any clarification someone requires? First let me know our participants. We will go serially. Ritik is not there, no issue. Historical perspective he was going to cover, it was covered earlier. Nikhil is there? No. Subodh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so probably we will start with you. Omkar is there? Okay, Gayatri, no. Ganesh.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Ganesh is there. Paras is not there. Om. So we have Subodh, then Ganesh. Nikita is there.
Yes sir.
Tejas.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Tejas is there. Shweta is there.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Lakhen is not there. Okay, no issue. Whoever is the speaker, we will just cover those topics which already selected by you. Before we start, let me cover few things why we are discussing it and why should we discuss it. What happened in 20th century, First World War, Second World War, things were different. Things were from the perspective of expansionism, things were for capturing land, dominating other country, maybe some kind of colonies were established by some countries, and we saw a change of scenario, world order after the wars. Especially after Second World War, we saw US emerged as politically, strategically, militarily a dominant player, and the other one was Russia. And then we saw cold. Okay, Lakhen is there. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
if
I'm
you
ready.
are able to communicate, then you can cover the topic, or we can just enjoy whoever is speaking today. Introduction I am just covering. Now, what is the implication of this war? And I am comparing it with previous some of the wars or major events in terms of these clashes, major wars. So after Second World War, we saw two big players, Russia and US, and we saw Cold War era. Thereafter, what happened? We saw few bilateral level clashes, disputes, not as a big something like Second World War. Whether it is Arab-Israel scenario, few countries involved, whether it is Vietnam War, US, and just indirect support from the other players, India, Pakistan, or for that matter, any clash you pick up after Second World War is not a global war. Whether it is Iraq invasion, whether it is Afghanistan war, whether it is first Russia Afghanistan, then US Afghanistan, things are pretty limited. Now I will prove why limited compared to today's scenario, what is happening. Maybe in future people will talk something on the lines of a major turning point of this century, how global order is going to change. Firstly, whether this is pre-planned or it is happening just as a natural consequence of clash between Russia and Ukraine. Doesn't seem that way. Something strategically planned leading to this point. Nobody is interested in limiting it or getting onto negotiation table. Country involved on front face is Russia and Ukraine, but the impact you see, two countries are fighting on which land? That is Ukraine, the major sufferer. Europe, I will just in the introduction will give only one example. Britain has already seen two prime minister change, and whether we analyze it properly or not, it has got some links to the economic effect of this war. So Europe is suffering. Russia is supplying so much of arms, ammunition, and fueling it from the Ukraine side. So Russia is also not coming to negotiation table. China is linking up with Russia as far as the major buyer of oil. New lines are getting established. So maybe in future we may get to see Europe as a major buyer of Russian gas and energy is replaced by China. India is also, I think, one of you will be speaking on those lines. So India is also doing something. So many countries are actually participating, whether prepared or not prepared, but adjusting their roles. Israel is adjusting now. Middle East will adjust. A lot of changes are going to happen, and maybe everyone's life, every country's life will be affected, and that is the importance of this clash which is going on, and hence we are discussing it. Okay, with this brief introduction, let's see first speaker. I'll just review. I think we have first Ritik is not there, Nikhil is not there, so we have Subodh. Subodh, you are ready?
Yes, sir. I'm ready.
Okay, Subodh will be speaking, if I'm correct, on Ukraine president, biography kind
Yes,
of
sir.
thing, Zelensky,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Vladimir Zelensky. Okay,
Yes, sir.
I will request someone to keep time so that we restrict 5 minutes at the most, and just summing it up. Okay, Subodh?
Sir, I'm
Yes, sir.
keeping time.
Okay,
Subodh, I'm keeping time.
Nikita keep time, and Subodh, if comfortable, you can switch on camera.
Yes, sir.
You can start.
Okay. So, good evening to all. Today's my lecture topic is Volodymyr Zelensky. So, Volodymyr Zelensky is currently serving president of Ukraine. He assumed office in 2019. So, if I talk a little bit about Ukraine, so Ukraine is a part of earlier Soviet era, Soviet Union, and after the disintegration in 1991, almost 22 independent states were formed, and Ukraine is one of them. If I talk about the Ukraine's current president, so he was born on 25th of January 1978, Volodymyr Zelensky, in a Jewish family. He grew up as a native Russian speaker. He spent his early days in Mongolia, where his father is working. His great grandfather worked in the army, and he fight from Russian army. He fight from the Russian army in the World War One, and he also served in army till the rank of colonel. So by inspiring from his great grandfather, he also wanted to become, but he could not make it. So after that, he passed a small English test to speak in English, and later on, after starting his entertainment career in the entertainment field, so he graduated from the Ukraine Economic University, and there he get the law degree. At the age of 70, at the age of 17, he entered into the entertainment field, comedian field, and later on he also participated in the local comedy drama. Later on, he also represented in national forums, and later on, in 2003, he opened his own production, that is Vital 95. Vital 95 produced a lot of comedy shows as well as television shows, then films, etc. In 2008, the Volodymyr Zelensky firstly started into the film, that is the Love in the Big City, and its sequel Love in the Big City 2. He starred in many of the films. He visited France and many European nations for the film shooting. Now, if I talk about his political career, so his political career is bit very vast. He assumed office in 2019 at the as a president, and he became the first president of Ukraine that is of Jewish origin. If I exclude Russia, because as I exclude Israel, because Israel is a totally Jewish state, and later on he conducted many reforms in his government. First of the things that he faced in his political career, that is the region which was annexed by Russia in 2014, that is Crimea. Later on, he has also many of the issues in front of him, just like his the political turmoil as well as the election system of Ukraine. Then, if I talk about the Donbas region, Luhansk region, so it is a disputed part regarding Russia. So one of the major thing in front of him is that to maintain and to improve the healthy relations with Russia, because it is a big challenge for him. In 2019, on 11th of June 2019, he make a first call to Russian President Vladimir Putin to solve all the disputes, but it is completely going well. Then later on, Germany and France meddled in between, and the accord is known as the Normandy Accord. According to this, Germany and France mediated, and many of the issues they said that we will solve together, but it is not happened. Later on, in 2021, on April, if I talk about the last year's scenario, on April 11, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky, he said that we want to join the NATO, as the Russia is building their military buildups on the borders regarding the Donbas and the Luhansk region. One of the major concern for the Ukrainian president is that most of majority of the people in the Donetsk and Luhansk region, they are from the Russian origin, and they want their independent state. But Ukrainian president don't want to let them get into the hands of the Russia. But it still continued. Ukrainian president Volodymyr Zelensky make many negotiating statements regarding them, and they have also talked with the separatist leaders. But it is completely going well. So if I talk about the Crimea issue is also one of the biggest issues that he has faced. Now, uh, if I talk about his political
Last 30 seconds.
now, if I talk about his Russia-Ukraine stands, so he stand like a leader, because many of the means U.S. President Joe Biden, as well as the Turkish President Erdogan, has also said that you should vacate the country, but he stand like a wall in front of the Russian forces. So it shows that his leadership, his courage, his determination. So lastly, I want to conclude that, and according to my opinion, I think that the world is moving towards the unipolar world due to some of the expandist countries like China, Russia, and USA. But we still have to stand like Volodymyr Zelensky's. We have to stand like Volodymyr Zelensky, that the way he is standing in front of the Russian forces. So we need to appreciate his work, and we need to support him in his work. Thank you.
Okay, good, Subodh. Subodh has covered well, and now let's understand Zelensky's role. He is a popular leader. He is popular among masses coming from an entertainment field. His rise to the center stage, if you link up this war right from 2014, when Crimea was annexed, and that time how West had responded, or Russia got emboldened, Putin declared lifetime president kind of thing, because there is some issue which is related to personalities. How Putin is playing personality and how Zelensky is playing personality. Otherwise, culturally, politically, the historical linkage of Russia and Ukraine is so sensitive and so important, and still both the countries are fighting. Personalities are not compromising. They are not coming to negotiation table. Both are displaying strong character. Zelensky, initially nobody could anticipate that he will resist like this or he will stand like this. He mobilized people, he inspired people to the extent that people are ready to fight and defend their country. This is ultimate leadership, no doubt about that. But then, is he acting on the orders of NATO countries or the US? There are some doubts. Is he not able to sense that so many lives are getting lost? Should they come to negotiation table? Putin has got reasons to fight because for so many years Putin was asking the West world that Ukraine should not be a part of NATO. That was the major demand from him, which was not accepted. And Ukraine was trying to get closer to the West. And this is the major reason of war, starting of war, because US was pushing its bases towards Ukraine, and Ukraine is almost part of NATO now. And before the war started, everyone was anticipating that Ukraine will get a lot of help easily. It did not start so easily. Initially, Ukraine was fighting on its own. Apparently, there was some support, but the support increased later on. Zelensky's personality was highlighted initially. He showcased that he is a great leader. He inspired his citizens. He motivated and made them to believe that we can fight back. Some people might have thought that this war will be over within a week. Ukraine is nothing. Russia will just crush it. But that did not happen. So major credit goes to the leadership of Ukraine. But then whether Zelensky is applying his own head, whether he is doing in the interest of the country or will ultimately prove himself wrong and will be a today he is a hero, but in future it should not happen that he is criticized for his decisions, because the major point is the war is happening on Ukraine's land. This Ukraine citizens are sufferers. Losses are for Ukraine. Russian soldier, even if dies, will be dying on the land of Ukraine. That is a different story. But today the major sufferer is Ukrainian citizens. The country is in turmoil and they are still not ready to come on negotiation table. They are getting enough help. They are having moral support and the infrastructure wise or whatever logistic support is required. It is coming in a more way now, and it started little late, but it is coming. So Zelensky's personality in future will be analyzed in more detail, but today it seems he is also adamant, not ready to bend down. In fact, giving so many bold statements and instigating Russia. He is also not giving any statement which can mellow down the intensity of war. It is not happening. And the last point from my side about this part, Zelensky has given good campaign on social media. He has been good at social media platform compared to what Putin could do. Maybe Western support is there. So he is a hero. Today, sympathies and the support from majority of the world goes to Zelensky's heroism, leadership, that he could defend his country despite being so weak. Obvious factor is he's getting support. Okay, good. Who is next?
Sir, I am Omkar.
Omkar. Let me see your topic. Okay. Erstwhile USSR. Okay. Timekeeper Subodh.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Omkar, go ahead.
So the timekeeping is 5 minutes.
Yes, 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Can I start, Subodh?
Yes, you can start.
Yes. Erstwhile of Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, former Northern Eurasian Empire, is in 1970 to the 1991, stretching from the Baltic and the Black Sea to the Pacific Ocean, and its final years consisting of 15 Soviet Socialist republics: Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Estonia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Latvia, uh, Moldova, Russia, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Ukraine, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan. During the period of its existence, the USSR was the area of the world's largest country. A group together made up of more than two-thirds of the total population in late 1980s. This country occupied nearly one-sixth of the world's land surface, covering the 11 of the world's Total time zones. USSR was successor of Russian Empire. It's after the Nicholas is having a Romanov dynasty. The country industry is doing well, mainly due to the large production of uh, steel, oil, but the working conditions are very difficult. So the populated over the 170 million peoples, the vast majority of whom are poor, ill-equipped, pleasant, likely communities are Obenchinas, the community is poor, but from the form of military point of view, the country having the largest army in that time in the all the world, about the 6 million soldiers in the army, but they are less equipped and trained and less trained as compared to the other countries. At the Germany, which has strongest army, Germany has a strongest army strongest and toughest army. After that, the finally in the Balkans tension arise between Austria and Hungary, which is empire in which is existence in Russia wants to plant several people. Russia allied with mobilization and with the days of First World War is breakout. While the Eastern Front is frozen in the trenches, Germany launched a major offensive against the Russia, seizing many territories. End of the Romanov dynasty in 1950. The millions of refugees wanders all over the country, while the industry is running at the full speed for the war, for the World War One, the determining the civilization need. It turns into the uncontrollable armed revolution, which offers Empire Nicholas to ob- ob- obligate uh, and get down from the position of the governor, making the end of the Romanov dynasty. Then the Volodymyr Lenin is come under the under the uh, under the form of the means chief of Russia. It's take the advantage of chaos to start a new revolution and seize the powers. They give the immediate peace, distribution of food all among the workers, and control the factory, equality and encapsulation of minority, easily going to support the large part of the population. A call of peace without annexation and compensation is launched, and Europe and S5 signed with the Central Powers. There is a peace treaty signed by the Russia with all the Central Powers. But in 1980, Germany and its allies
Last 30
offensive
seconds.
recognized Ukraine. In reaction, the Bolshevik interrupt the peace of negotiation. In losing the one third of population that access the Russia end of the World War One, the Russian Civil War is started. They Lenin moves his capital in Moscow, in the heart of the country. The European World War ends with the defeat of the country's power. Bolshevik immediately annually
Time
the
up.
treaty signed with Central Power. Lastly, the Soviet Union Republic USSR proclaimed bring together four republics are formed with the USSR. Means all country are mixed together. 8 years of war, the whole country is devastated. In the in the 1924, Lenin died after the Joseph Stalin dismiss his places political and make the he make the single government in Russia, kill the people who spoke against him and people aggression and make rebels and get independent the USSR separately in by the 15 country. This is the end of the USSR. Thank you.
Okay, Omkar, well tried. USSR, like India, has got a great history. Like we enjoy learning our own history. Similarly, Chinese history or Russian history. Russia is a vast country. You see how Hitler got defeated or Germany's advance got defeated. It is some tough terrain in Russia where it is plain yet inhospitable, severe cold. So this kind of terrain is a problematic thing. In Russia, it's a mass, huge mass, which is so inhospitable. So with that backdrop, now let's understand USSR, what Omkar has highlighted, 15 countries, then disintegrated. But if you want to note one thing, the major first and second then subparts were Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine was second biggest and important player after Russia. And people do claim that once upon a time, Kiev, that is Ukrainian capital, was more stronger than Moscow. This is the attachment Russians have got, and that is how they have been sensitive to this Ukrainian part. Secondly, in that USSR, these smaller nations were of no importance comparatively, but Ukraine has got more significance because it is a gateway towards Russia. Russia doesn't have mountains on this side. If the Europe touches, already it is at the doorstep of Russia. It is vulnerable now. The mindset you see from the Russian point of view that at their doorstep, if Ukraine is also occupied or becomes a part of NATO, now Russia is vulnerable. There is no natural obstacle. Easily any country can push in or advance into the Russian territory. Unlike we have on North Himalaya as a big guardian, or if there is any ocean or something. Secondly, Crimea and the Black Sea, and then natural reservoirs and many mineral related things, resources, all those aspects are there. But more specifically, the terrain, the connectivity of Russia and the Ukraine, and if Ukraine is cut, Russia is exposed. It is plain. That is a buffer now, Ukraine. And the Russia is always warning that Ukraine should be neutral, and there are many agreements in this effect, and that is not respected. Even Ukraine has disrespected it, and Russia is also now not going by those agreements. These are the issues. But now that background is playing. Russia was number one, Ukraine was number two in those 15 nations. And Mikhail Gorbachev, when this disintegration happened, you see the coincidence, irony. He also recently died. He did not get the ceremonial farewell. Putin did not attend it. It speaks something that he was a disputed head. He was not respected. Maybe that is the reason Putin was, whether deliberately or whatever engagement he had, he did not attend the last rites. That means he was not given due respect during his last rites. So that is the psychological importance that these people are having towards Ukraine, that Ukraine is their part culturally and many ways. Their history is connected, and Kiev was stronger than Moscow at one point of time in history. So they feel they are together. But now, especially in Second World War, the major resistance was from Ukrainian territory for the Germany. It fought well, and today Russia wants that back strongly for the overall protection of the country as a Russia, and secondly that emotional attachment. They feel that they are same, and that is how Eastern Ukraine was dominated by Russian strategies, diplomacy, and some settlements there. It was always there. Okay, now next is after Omkar, Gayatri is not there. Ganesh is there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, reason for Russian aggression you're covering.
Yes, sir.
Okay, uh, Omkar, keep
Sir,
time.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
keep the
I will
time.
keep. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Omkar.
I will keep that. You can start, Ganesh.
Okay. So my today's topic is Russia's reason for Russia's aggression towards Ukraine. So I'll be not speaking like a lecturer, but I'll be explaining the topic briefly. So firstly, I would like to point out that Putin is just not a madman currently flexing his powers. It is all the game of geopolitics. So we'll go towards the recent history, recent aggressions of Russia. This all started with Russia's annexation of Georgia. Russia and Georgia troop movements were seen in Abkhazia and South Ossetia, and these were the separatist area inside the country of Georgia. With recent context, we can see that the separatist areas of Ukraine are Donetsk, Luhansk, and Kherson. So, like these, the two separatist areas in Georgia were Abkhazia and South Ossetia. This invasion was usually known as Russo-Georgia War in 2008, and the end result was Russian troops would withdraw from Georgia, but Abkhazia and South Ossetia would remain Russian occupied territories. Now, Georgia was a small country, and the heart of everyone was the question why Russia invaded this country. And the simple answer is NATO. Russia did not want Georgia to become a NATO state. But there are some more points to it. Georgia was a former Soviet state, and with access to Black Sea and major pipelines, and by joining NATO, Russia couldn't have the influence they did once. Now, next comes the annexation of Crimean Peninsula. Now, the majority of Ukrainians at that time were angry with pro Russian President Viktor and his decision to join Russia led Eurasian Economic Union instead of joining the EU. And the protests were so huge and at their peak that we see in 2014 the ouster of Viktor. Soon after, amid fears of growing Western influence in Ukraine, Russia decided to act by invading Crimea, which was a part of Ukraine. And we know that both Russia and for the West, Ukraine acted as a crucial buffer at the time of war or at any uncertainty. And with Ukraine seeking NATO membership, this safe buffer zone for Russia was seen as a disappearing point. Now, there is more point to Crimea annexation. Control of Crimea gives Moscow continuing access to naval base at Sevastopol, home to Russia's Black Sea Fleet. Sevastopol's warm water, natural harbor, and the extensive infrastructure will make it among the best naval bases in Black Sea. While now we know that Russia has currently leased the Sevastopol base, and it runs through 2042. But the recent events has the uncertainty that Russia might lose it. Operating from Sevastopol, the Black Sea Fleet provides Russia a great ability to project power in and around Black Sea. So we have seen it as a potent symbol for Russia to project its power. Now coming over the main topic. the two main points for aggression, in my view, is first is geopolitics. Geopolitics is a word now we see that it is being tossed up around all the news channels and all in the TVs. But we have no idea what the word actually means. It is the study of how geography, natural land, water formation, human history sometimes often dictate politics and international relations. Now we see Russia's demographics are in free fall. These are the some main points which are never been brought out in the media. 1 in 10 Russians are over 65, and their workforce is in shambles. They cannot replace workers due to declined birth rates. Then, adding in fact that Russia has skyrocketing levels of alcohol, substance abuse, they have a failed healthcare sector, declining life expectancy, and astronomical rates of HIV and AIDS. Russia is a state which is edging towards a failed state. Most of Russia is also been known as a frozen tundra with non-arable land. And the current misconception regarding Putin is that he is a crazy person and want to expand his empire simply. But if we see, Putin is not a dumb person. If we remember that Putin has spent his life and understands how geography and demography are dictating Russia's future. And Putin knows this very clearly that if they don't act now, they are done forever. And that's why he has been consolidating powers and running the psychological operations and campaigns on its own people when he took office in 2000. Now, if we see Russia, Russia holds a strong position and a bilateral tie with Georgia, Ukraine, alliance with Azerbaijan, and a friendly relation with Armenia and Belarus. The second most important point regarding the aggression of Russia towards Ukraine is the West influence. The second portion of this is because Putin has been emboldened by the West response to international affairs. We see USA has been
Last
playing a
30 seconds.
vital role in Middle East. We have seen USA has played roles in Syria, Iraq, Libya, Yemen. Sometimes we have seen Russia has also played around Syria. The icing on the cake can be said as the US evacuation of Afghanistan, and it has become an human rights crisis now. But from this, we can see that US has played a role in every country in the Middle East, and they have influenced over major groups like UN. We have seen majority of funding for UN was from US, WTO, WHO, NATO, Iran
Time
nuclear
out.
deal, climate agreement, Squad, AUKUS, ITU2, the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, and the list goes on. Also, we have seen that turmoil in the Middle East has been created, and the majority of it goes to the US only. So this influence has created some backdrop in the mind of Putin. Now, if we talk about some of these chats, we see that Russia wants to keep the market open, as he knows the Putin knows that the West influence on Ukraine can move Ukraine towards the US, and we know Ukraine is mineral rich and is a huge market of exports. Now, at last, I would like to point out my analysis and one point which I think is one of the reasons for aggression. Russia wants to trap US into a high inflation loop where US economy will degrade. We have seen that in recent Russia is known as the largest exporter of energy resource to the European Union, especially to the Germany. And by cutting the exports, Russia can trap EU and US in a loophole where both of their economies will degrade. We see US can supply Europe the energy, but US's own energy prices would skyrocket, and the backlash by the American populace would be swift given the recent inflation rates are being high and at the peak. And we have also seen that now France is supplying gas to Germany, but France itself has to supply energy needs to its own people. We have seen OPEC has cut 2 million barrels production as US and EU will now face higher oil prices issues, and this has happened due to Russia's influence on Saudi Arabia. So at last, I want to just conclude with that the main aggression of Russia towards Ukraine is due to first is geopolitics, second is West influence, and third is the Russian country wants to trap US in an economic loop, and they want to degrade its economy. Thank you.
Okay, good Ganesh. Well covered. Starting with Georgia, how the chain of sequence Ganesh has covered. One US general had given interview that how things are planned, how it was US strategy to finish some countries, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, and if we know what he was Ganesh was saying, US withdrawal from Afghanistan was in hurry, and this war started, there are some plannings and some kind of strategic aims. Countries are targeted. In this complete planning, energy is playing a big role. Russia is a major supplier to Europe. Interestingly, US and UK has less to lose. Germany, France, and other countries are losing much. The economy is in turmoil. Maybe in winter things will be worst. And if sanctions were imposed on Russia to have economic turmoil effect, but it is backfiring on some countries. But are these countries prepared to face it? There is a big question. And that is how stand is getting little loosened. Germany, France, these countries have to think there are issues. Now coming to what Ganesh has highlighted interestingly about Russia's present conditions, whether as a failed state or Putin's aspirations to bring back the pride. We can see similar thing in China also. What Xi Jinping is doing the things that bringing back the pride or taking the nation to the glorious heights. Same is with us. India also wants to be superpower. China also wants to be a big power. Russia wants to be a big power. Personalities are important, and these personalities are showcasing such aims and ambitions very openly. So they are not compromising. Reasons for war, what Ganesh has covered, are multidimensional. Some things are beyond our probably present vision, because there are some people who are claiming this is a pre-planned war, and that is why negotiation is yet to be started. It is already decided. Maybe winter will be a period when we need to see how some of the countries will be reacting and behaving. In this complete episode, China is going to come up in a big way. Russia China linkage is getting strengthened. India stand now, that topic will be covered. That time I will speak. India's role is also important. So, reasons are many. We talked about historical linkage, we talked about some Ukraine's interest in West and getting affiliated towards it, despite the fact that it was part of Russia and erstwhile USSR, has got more similarities with Russia. Despite it, it is going or having a little bit tilt towards West or NATO countries. This is objectionable for Russia because what just now covered by Ganesh, you see the terrain, you see the demography and the terrain of this Russia. It itself is a big matter of study, and deliberately US has pushed Russia to the corner of war. This is quite interesting to understand how Russia was forced to enter into war. So many warnings. 2014 onwards, things were apparently seen, apparent um, threatening to each other in the international forum. And imagine the implications. Whatever is happening today, how many countries are watching and playing their cards. And for example, China will also take a call for Taiwan, how this matter evolves and develops. So, interestingly, things will be having impact in times to come. Okay, without covering much, we will go to next. Who is there?
Nikita.
Okay, Nikita is going to cover what is implication for India and India's stand on the Russia-Ukraine crisis.
Yes, sir.
Okay, timekeeping Ganesh.
Yes, sir. You
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Today I'll be speaking about
can
the.
starting.
Okay, okay. Good evening, everyone. Today I'll be talking about the implications of the Ukraine-Russia war on the India and India's stand so far. First of all, war is something which is not welcomed at all because it brings a lot of negative effects on its surrounding as well as in if we see in world order, then definitely it uh, affects a lot of countries in negative manner, but in a very small scale it affects few countries in a positive way. So talking about the impact on India, I personally feel that Russia Ukraine war has affected India in much more positive way than in negative way. So starting from the impact, first if we see in the commodity sector, Russia was the largest exporter of the commodities in the world, but as the country has been engaged in the war, indirectly alternative countries have got benefit, and India is one of them. Now, India would be exporting the lot of commodities to the other countries. Now, if we consider wheat grain crisis, we all know that Ukraine and Russia together used to export almost 30% of the wheat grain to the different countries. But now, as both the countries are engaged in the war, they have banned their export. So, in this scenario, India has taken the opportunity and come into the market and would be exporting wheat to the to the countries who are in need. So, two things will be happening. First, we'll be exporting grain so that it will directly add to the GDP, and second, uh, it will uh, kind of say we can say that it will be a humanitarian assistance in case of in the time of difficulties. So it will always be a this will always be a soft power. Now further talking about oil, crude oil prices after the war has increased. In India, we see that petrol diesel prices has touched the sky. Why? Because Russia was the largest exporter of the crude oil, and as its boundaries were closed, so prices were increased. But after few months, Russia gave a discount on barrel to the India. So definitely India got oil, crude oil in less price. But at the same time, if we see food sector has been affected in a negative way because edible oil, most of the edible oil we used to import from the Ukraine, and as again borders were closed, so it was almost impossible for the India to import it from anywhere else, and also there was a scarcity in our own country. That's why the price of the edible oil touched the was at its high prices. So so food sector has been affected in a negative sense. So, talking about the Indian airline sector, so after war started, Russia banned almost more than 36 countries from using its airspace, but it also make it open to its friendly countries. So India was one of them. So what Indian Airlines did was they actually lessened the airfare and started moving people from west part to the from east part to the west part. So a lot of people preferred Indian Airlines. So indirectly boost the Indian Airlines, and it contributed to the GDP again. Then talking about the technical jobs, in particularly IT sectors. So most of the European countries was dependent on the Ukraine for skilled labor in IT sector. But now these countries would look at alternative, and here again India comes at a top priority as we have a huge labor market. So there would be an employment generation in our country. After that, uh, India has come at the center of the world power. If we see, after 1 or 2 months of the war, USA, Germany Chancellor, France President, they actually looked up to India and thought that we could actually bring war to an end. They wanted us to act as a mediator. So, so these huge countries, at least wanting India to act as a mediator is itself, it is an achievement in itself, because we are gaining that much importance in world order. And I think that time will definitely come where India will be ordering the world order. And last but not least, that
Exactly.
is because of the war, India has decided, definitely because of COVID, and again immediately after the war, India has more prominently decided to become a self-reliant. So we are working on that sector as well, which will again generate the employment in our country. Now, talking about the India's stand so far, so India has taken two stands. First is from time to time, India has condemned the civilian killings, but without any name calling. And second, India has abstained from the UN votes. So basically, we have taken a neutral stand and we are still following the non alignment policy. Thank you.
Okay, good, Nikita. Very important thing which is directly related to our country. What will be the impact on us? You see how when the war started, we clearly had kept neutral stand. We were not favoring or giving any statement which could hurt either of them. We had 18,000 students stuck in Ukraine, plus some citizens which for some work or business interest or otherwise were there. So first evacuation was there. So we needed both countries' support. We wanted Ukraine support, we wanted Russian support, and we achieved it. Then how things are changing today in UN discussions and forums, we are taking side of little bit openly regarding Russia's favor. We are openly defending our oil and gas purchase, mainly oil from the Russia. The other day, our foreign minister was saying, or the all spokesperson, you hear anybody now, they are openly defending our stand that we want to look after our own interest. What India buys in one season, generally, probably the Europe is buying in one afternoon. So you look into your own area first. You talk about your purchases, because what West is trying to impose that sanctions are there on Russia. You support us. Why should we support? We have to look after our own interests. You see, every country has just come out of the shadow of COVID scenario. Economy had collapsed, and you see the timing of this war. It will further break the major backbone of such countries, and that is how it becomes more significant that world order will get changed. Those countries who are reaping benefits by some wise decisions will emerge as a major player in tomorrow's scenario. China and India specifically, and who knows, Middle East is now again going to come up, because the Europe, if they are compelled to go somewhere else, they will go to Middle East. And for Russia, Europe is getting replaced by Chinese market or Indian market. This is how game is changing. But who knows, these major powers, especially European countries, will not be continuing their status. A lot of ups and downs will happen in ranking as far as the economic situation goes. Let's see. Okay, good. Nikita, who is next? After Nikita is Tejas. Tejas, ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Impact on Europe in general. Nikita, keep time.
Yes, sir. Tejas, you can start.
So my topic is the impact of Russia-Ukraine war on Europe in general. So I will be covering this topic on three heads: energy head, economic head, and I'll be winding up with the political head. So starting off with the energy head. Basically, Europe imports almost $500 billion worth of energy per year, and most of this energy which comes from Russia. Russia supplies 40% of gas and 30% of crude oil to Europe, and two thirds of the imported energy goes into generating electricity and other assorted things. So basically, this is the scenario. As for the gas pipelines to Europe, now the first is a Nord Stream gas pipeline. This is a gas pipeline which was recently blown up. There are two Nord Stream gas pipelines. This is Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2. Now, both were blown up recently. So basically, that is about 110 cubic meters gas per year not flowing into Europe. Then there is a Brotherhood oil pipeline. This is 4,000-kilometer oil pipeline, and it flows across multiple states, multiple countries into Europe. And lastly, there is a Yamal pipeline. This is again a gas pipeline. And as I mentioned previously, that Russia has now cut off the gas supply and oil supply to Europe by almost 90-95%. And this has really put a lot of turmoil into Europe. Uh, then the question arises as to energy stores of Europe. Well, basically, a lot of reports have come up wherein it is said that almost 95-96% of the gas reserves of Europe are filled. But these gas reserves are designed to sustain Europe's energy needs for only a few months, 2 to 3 months max. And seeing as winter is coming, the energy demand will naturally increase. The demand for heating and the demand for industrial supply will increase. Then it will be a tough call for the European nations to ration and redirect the supply of gas. So basically, limited gas supply from Russia, not many gas projects coming up in 23, and the upcoming competition from Asia, basically China and other Asian nations in the winter times. Really aggravate the situation in the coming times, and ultimately Europe will be in the energy crisis in 2023-24. And these are the reports by Goldman Sachs and other analysts. So naturally, the question arises of the alternatives. So starting off with the oil, OPEC plus nations have now recently declared that they will be going for 2 million barrels per day oil cuts. So there is nothing about the oil. As for the LNG, there are no new projects lined up for next year. And again, as I mentioned previously, there will be a revival of competition for the current oil stores from the Asian nations, mainly China. And the LNG demands are likely to increase by 14% in the summer of 23-24. And this is a report by Morgan Stanley. As for the hydropower, this will be in short supply because of the heat waves and droughts. As we have witnessed recently, there was a huge heat wave and drought, and this has really impacted hydropower. Now, coal, again, there will be a higher prices for the existing coal because of higher demands as well, and naturally, suppliers will be willing to give it to the buyers who are paying higher prices. So, this is one factor of the coal. And as for the nuclear energy, well, Europe largely relied on France for its nuclear energy. And nuclear energy doesn't really make up a lot of the energy which is used by Europe. And France has 56 nuclear reactors, but most of them are old and need maintenance. And these maintenance cannot happen overnight. These maintenance need a lot of money and a lot of time as well. So nuclear energy cannot come into play quite well. So and lastly, for the renewable energy, this will depend upon the next year's summer. Ultimately, how the summer plays out, how the various pressure plates and other things play out, that will ultimately affect the renewable energy. So, what exactly is the outlook for Europe?
Last
Europe
30
it
seconds.
put up a, it can basically put up a price cap, or it can increase the supply of energy, or it can decrease the demand. On the front of increasing supply, well, increasing supply of natural gas needs a lot of setting up of pipelines. This cannot be done overnight. It is quite expensive as well. As for the LNG side, this takes almost 2 to 3 years to set up regasification terminals, and there is that issue of purchasing the LNG,
Time up.
and buyers will be selling to the sellers will be selling to the buyers, paying more, and same goes for the coal. And for the demand side, the only real solution available for the European nations is mandated and widespread energy rationing, and industries reducing production. And this we can see happening in real time as well. Over 70% of the fertilizer producers have now shut down their production. The prices of natural gas have more than doubled. Electricity bills have more than tripled, and stagflation is the current state of the economy. And lastly, on the issue of the price cap, again, the Europe only centric issue mechanism of the price cap will not work, because again the sellers will only be selling to high paying buyers. So the that won't work. Price cap won't work. Only the real thing that can work is addressing the demand supply. So as for the economic crisis, well, one only needs to see three things: the inflation, growth, and unemployment. On the inflation front, the inflation is over 9.1%, and the European Central Bank is mandated to keep it under 2%, just as the RBI is mandated to keep it within 2 to 6%. 2 to 6%. On the growth front, Europe has grown at 0.8%, and as I mentioned previously, stagflation is the current state of the euro. Stagflation basically means that the growth is lower and inflation is higher. If the European Central Bank pumps in money to revive growth, it risks inflation, hiring inflation, and if it pulls back money, it risks lowering growth. So that is that. And there is also a cost of living crisis. Basically, people are spending more than they are earning, and this has really hurt a lot of people, because this inflation is now getting pushed forward into the food as well, because the food prices have gone up by 13.1%. And whenever we have seen that there is energy and inflation and monetary crisis in any nation, political crises are just around the corner. And very recently we have seen that the UK's Prime Minister Liz Truss had to step down because of her fiscal plans. Basically, what she did was she gave unfunded tax cuts to the nation's elites in the hopes of trickle down effect, which ultimately did not happen, and the prices of the demand for guild lowered, and because of it, she had to step down. And the Italian Prime Minister also had to step down, and there are protests in France and Germany as well. So these are the broad contours of impact of Russia-Ukraine war on Europe. Thank you.
Okay, good Tejas. Very important to understand impact on Europe in general. We already saw what Tejas was covering in the end. Some government getting toppled. UK we saw, and maybe more in line. Let's wait and watch, because this war is affecting. Initially, nobody thought Europe will be affected so much. Today, Europe is in catch 22 situation. All countries. This is a lesson of a modern warfare where the technology is there, lethal weapons are there, but war is not ending. We saw Iraq war continued. It never ended actually. We saw Afghanistan war. It never ended. It was an abrupt withdrawal. And now today, Russia-Ukraine war, it is not ending. If war of yesteryears were ending in couple of months, maybe couple of years in First World War and Second World War, and between two nations it was just quick. The classic war is 1971 Indo-Pak. Just precisely a couple of days, 13, 16 days, it is over. Surrender is there. So this is a new dimension. Every country will understand that these wars, because the deterrence of nuclear arsenals plays on mind, there is a lot of rhetoric, less of application, more of propaganda, especially the social platform media. And this is how it is difficult. Decision crisis happens, and the common people will suffer a lot. And today Europe is suffering. The inflation is on a record high. Maybe the governments are struggling to manage economy. Okay, to cut down on time, we will move to next. Only thing, they just have taken a little more time. Uh, Now is Shweta. Shweta, ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you will be speaking why rest of world should be bothered about Russia-Ukraine conflict. Okay.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
Tejas, can you keep time?
Yes, sir.
Shall I start?
Yeah, you can begin.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is me, Shweta Singh, and today I'm going to speak on why rest of world should be bothered about Russia-Ukraine conflict. We all listen one Sanskrit slok, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means the world is one family. The term family means a group of people who are related to each other. If any of the family member having a conflict between them, then whole family get bothered about him or her. Similarly, whole world are related to each other, and all countries are the family member of of this family. Russia Ukraine are the part of family, so the whole world bothered about a Russia Ukraine war. The Russia Ukraine war affect to the environment, peace, human life, and economic crisis. Environment impact on Russia Ukraine conflict. Due to Russian Ukraine conflict is create a bigger way to cause irreversible damage to the environment on regional and globally too. Ukraine encompasses 6% of Ukraine landmass but 35% of biodiversity. There are 70,000 species and endemic flora and fauna. It is crossed by large rivers like the Dnipro, Nesta, and Donbas, who produce the essential contributor to the food security of the country. About 16% of the land is also covered by the timber, is one of the main economic activities for this country. As the tank, rocket launchers, and the ballistic missile systems, wetland 33 of which status of international importance are going to damage first. Explosion from the artillery increase the risk of forest fire, which already burned a 20-hectare forest from the Luhansk region. The groundwater can dissolve mercury, arsenic, and lead if the landmines are not pumped. Due to this, at the due to this, the groundwater of the region get contaminated permanently. As we see that due to the burn of the forest, the species of that forest get totally destroyed. The forest totally destroyed, the land totally destroyed, and during the burning of forest, the air is also get polluted by the um, landmines which are not pumped. The water get uh, permanently contaminated, which means that the aquatic biodiversity is totally destroyed. Then at the end, what we get are destroyed, nothing. A number of civilian casualties during the Russian Ukraine conflict. The Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights verified a total 6.6 billion. Military losses have been heavy on both sides, with 9,000 Ukrainians as more as 25,000 Russians said to be killed. Russia Ukraine conflict also destroyed the peace globally. As we see, many countries stand with Russia and many countries stand with Ukraine, which divided the country into two parts. As a result of this, peace get destroyed globally. Some of the friend turning to foe and foe turning to friend. As we see that presently US helping the Pakistan with open heart or with their all hand. Like US offers package for Pakistan's F-16 fleet. On the other hand, US get a stronger relationship with Pakistan, but they have some issue with India and USA. There is one project Russia was trying to push Nord Stream to gas
Last 30
pipeline to
seconds.
Germany, and this is the reason US seems to get very annoyed. If the project gets succeeded, then Russia become a more powerful economically, and this is totally intolerable by the USA. And in the future, we might see the conflict between USA and Russia too. The Russia-Ukraine conflict also impact the economically to the world. there is a sudden hike in oil prices, there is a sudden growth in
Your
graph
time's
of
up.
inflation, and there is a sudden fall in stock market. As we see that 1 US dollar equals to 82.74 Indian rupee. At the end, I want to say that is the piece of small land is more important than the human life and environment. We don't know the result of this conflict. We know one thing: at the end we get a destroyed land, a polluted water, a polluted air, and totally destroyed biodiversity, and we lost many human life. Is this is not enough to stop this conflict? Thank you so much.
Okay, good, Shweta. Asking correct questions. Whether is it worth to go for war? We are losing so much. Environment is damaged, water is polluted, air is polluted. Losing civilians is a key. You see, we had First World War, Second World War. Civilian casualty was not a target. It was not aimed. Today's modern warfare, which is now happening in urban areas or civilian areas, and easily civilians are killed, and we are tolerating it. This is the big problem in today's warfare. We need to understand that a country is fighting war with another country. How come cities are getting damaged? Where are the rules, international rules? Schools are targeted. Is it the just beginning of Third World War? Because hypothetically, if nuclear warhead is triggered in this war, it will be a flashpoint and Third World War kind of scenario we can see. This is a big fear now, just on the verge of getting converted into Third World War. As such, many countries are involved. Economic damage, economic crisis all over the world is a big consequence of this war. Every country is going to face. Only thing some countries are smartly utilizing the opportunity of saving their economy. China and India is one of them. But we are losing. It is not all gain. Some losses are already there. So there is a concern for whole world, even if theoretically we feel it is US supporting Ukraine and Russia is fighting against Ukraine or a NATO. But the whole world is getting, because today everyone is interconnected. That is a big problem. Social media, everyone is affected. Every country's stock market is affected. Okay, good. Now coming to the last speaker, Lakhan. Lakhan's topic is
Yes, sir.
way
Yes.
ahead, how we
Way
can
ahead.
see end of this war. Ready?
Yes, sir. I'm ready, sir.
Okay. Shweta, keep time.
Okay, you can start now.
Good evening, friends. Today I'm going to speak on the last point, that is way ahead and how we can see the end of this war. Before starting, I must say that this war between Russia and Ukraine was started from the 24th of February to till date. Initially, it was estimated that this war will be continued to 2 and 3 months, but this, due to the influence of the West, this war is going to be continue. And let me tell you that this war is now become the influence of NATO and Russia. Initially, it was started the war between Russia and Ukraine, but now the Ukraine is only the battleground. This is the war between NATO and Russia directly. We know that what is the impact global world is facing with this war. Just we have recovered from the COVID pandemic. After COVID pandemic, we are going with this war to the another turmoil. But here I would like to say that since the war is started, the world is facing the problem. If you talk about the Ukraine, the civilians are also facing a lot of problem. We also covered as many of us also, Sarij also covered that the innocent people are suffering a lot. They're also going to be migrate to other Slovakia and Poland like that. Even the Russian people are also suffering from this. There is a hashtag is going to be circulated that how to break the arm. Since the Russia start mobilize its partial mobilization of 3 lakh people, even the Russian people could not want to do to and to come in this war. But this is the hegemony between the Russia and USA. We know that Russia is not going to be down at any price. And US is also supplying many weapons to Ukraine. Even the USA also losing its economy and also facing many protests in USA. But USA also getting some profit at any time because it is supplying to weapon and arms and ammunition to the Ukraine. And the world is also suffering from the oil and all time inflation high. That if you talk about the Europe, the 40% gases, crude oil or gases are coming from the Russia. If the Russia stop its Nord Stream 1 pipe 1 and 2 Nord Stream 1 pipeline, then it is going to be impact on Russia on the European Union badly because winters are coming close and the world is suffering a lot. If I see this war, that we are looking that this war is going to be further day by day because many of the expectation, even Ukraine also, even UK also jumping, also providing a lots of weapon to even the NATO countries also providing the weapon to the Ukraine. And Ukraine just already told you that Ukraine now become only a battleground. That is a war between Russia and West countries. And if you talk about India, India always abstain from by voting in favor in India always abstain from in the UNSC because India know that what is the advantage of Russia in 1971 given to us. And in the how we can see because this war is going to be taken further step day by day. Iran is also supporting Russia by providing them the kamikaze drones. And Russia is also taking the advantage of Afghan soldier. Elite soldiers of Afghan are also joining Russia in order to fight against
Only 30
Ukraine.
seconds are left.
Now we can see the end of this war. Only the India, who is always supporting of the Russia as well as in Ukraine. Only India uh, can be the mediator so that this war can be an end. And all the country should come
Time's
together
up.
with the collective point so that this war will not be affected more to the global as world is already facing too much inflation all over the world. Thank you.
Okay, good, Lakhan. Very nice. Uh, Lakhan has come to a point. The war started Russia versus Ukraine, but now it's the present state is Russia versus NATO. The level is up. In fact, Iran supplying drones. Iran is also with Russia. If India and China is buying more and more oil from Russia, that means we are with Russia. So there are many countries against many countries. It is already a shape or the scenario building up akin to Third World War. Many countries versus many countries. And it has to stop now. Otherwise, it will be the end of the world. If it is not the end of the war, it will be the end of the world. It is scary because some personalities are taking it to an extreme corner. And maybe some Good leadership, sensible leadership is required now. You see the emerging scenario. Russian President Putin praising Prime Minister Modi, that Modi is giving great leadership to India and is a patriotic. Such open statements, supporting statements are good for India, but then who will control this war? Maybe what Lakhan was highlighting, India can intervene, China can intervene, US can intervene because NATO countries are trapped. US is continuously supplying and instigating. Winter will be a deciding period now because a lot of countries will be on the verge of breaking because energy crisis is a big factor. Economic crisis will be a big factor. Governments will collapse. Already there is a unrest in a lot of countries where citizens are rising and revolting against the sitting governments. There will be chaotic scenario. Inflation will break the uh, economies and the common man's life, and that is too dangerous. It is not worth. So let's see how things move from here because already there are some indications that this war is yet to get into dirty phase. A lot of conspiracy theories are going on when US is saying that naturally India is ally of Russia on many accounts. When Rishi Sonik had come to the center stage, how things are seen. An Indian origin person getting the position of head in UK, that means some opinions, some sympathies will turn towards West through him because there is so much of population, Indian origin population in UK. Otherwise, celebrations were for Indian origin person, sympathies naturally with Russia, but now through such person, maybe these are all conspiracy theories you can call, but you never know what kind of strategies are going on. Every country is playing its game, but the controller are sitting somewhere else. But in the bargain, the common people will suffer a lot. Maybe if something goes to the extreme point and some nuclear arsenal gets launched, it will be a flashpoint, it will be a cascading effect. It will snowball into many things. There are people sitting on trigger. So maybe first trigger goes on and it will be devastating sequence of such missile launch or whatever. So that should not happen. The ultimate end to this war will be on negotiating table. Some wise heads to come on in center stage. India has to take lead. US has to take lead. China has to take lead. But probably wait and watch scenario is there. Let's see how it ends. So today we had good discussions, good coverage from respective speakers because this is important. We are witnessing a very, very important event which is going to change the history hereafter. We have been reading world wars in our history textbooks. This war will be read in future as a changing scenario for the world dynamics. We distinctly know there was a Cold War scenario where it was US against Russia. You never know how the world order is going to emerge in 2023. Just wait for this winter. A lot of economies hierarchy will change. Some economies will suddenly boost up, some countries will collapse, some countries will become unstable, and if something bad is going to happen, then it will be too rapid and beyond our imagination. Imagine, I was talking about only nuclear. Imagine biological warfare immediately after this COVID. And if we witness some biological warfare, it will be the disastrous thing to witness because it will not limit to one country, it will spread. Okay, anyone, any point wants to speak something, contribute? We can have 2 to 3 minutes more.
Sir, with this war, the China can also take the advantage because the USA is already busy with the Russia. Here, China can take advantage to invade of the Taiwan.
No, it will not take. Some people argue that it is not capable as of now. Their army is not tested. Taiwan has got support. Taiwan itself is going to defend it reasonably well and it will get support from other countries. In fact, China is consolidating today. They have linked up well established lines and it is going to get 2023 strong supply of gas, oil from Russia. And that is what I was saying. Entire Europe market, when it was, we were seeing that it is getting lost for Russia, a good market, and Russian economy will collapse. Russia has already found replacement in China because China can compensate such demand. China's demand is huge, and India is also a big buyer now. Hereafter, so far we were a small buyer as compared to all these countries, but we are also rising our demands. So China is consolidating, understanding the nitty-gritties how things are rolling because this outcome is not coming easily. So China will not dare to do this because China has not that scenario which Russia has got. Russia has got a clear cut direction of war. China has multiple directions of war. Already a trade war with US, Japan, some conflict, South China Sea, almost oil islands, some disputes, US Navy already pushing itself, and India as such, we are also threat for them. So China will not be opening up so easily, and it has got its own issues also. Its military is not tested. At least Russian military was tested just recently in Afghanistan, or it has been testing itself in small disputes, supporting other countries, or starting from Crimea or Georgia. All those small uh, test points they had. China doesn't have, apart from some skirmishes. China's military is yet to be tested, equipment is yet to be tested. So probably there are many things which doesn't meet our eyes. Okay, Lakhan,
Okay, sir.
they will not do this. In fact, COVID was a big factor. Countries were recovering from that effect. Every country, entire world, entire world is recovering from COVID, and this war has happened. It is already a big pain for every country, whether you like it or not. You are into war. All these NATO or Russia, they are not really liking it. Timing is very bad, but it has been the scenario now. So India, China, today if there is how Ladakh episode we handled, China and India, we both the countries were cautious. We did not want to enter into war. We were capable. Both countries are well equipped, but the COVID has hit the economies. It has changed the stance of such countries. Okay, okay. Anyone else? So we had a almost 1.5 hour session, good session. We could discuss from many angles, personalities, Europe, Russia, Ukraine, reasons, and impact in general on India or at the global level, and how we can see the end. Hopefully, we see the end soon. Hopefully, we Wish that the sense will prevail, wisdom will prevail, humanity and peace is understood well, and these leaders who are required to take decisions, we wish and pray that they take correct decisions in the interest of the humanity, global peace. What we just discussed, that we want to respect life. Innocent civilians should not be targeted. Gas pipeline, that mystery, time will reveal it who actually damaged it. But Russia, though allegedly Russia has damaged it, which doesn't convince. Maybe it was pre-planned. It is not easy to damage such pipeline which are thick, very very robust. It even cannot be damaged by earthquakes. So maybe some submarine, some kind of deliberate attack, bomb planting from the US or some NATO country, well planned destruction of gas pipeline. These are all instigations. These are all really hitting the European countries. Let's see how things roll out. But India is watchful. India is very, very cautious and keeping very, very close watch on all these developments because we have interest in balanced relations. We are not enemy to Russia or to Ukraine. We want to see prosperity. Our Ukraine relations, because erstwhile USSR, we were friendly. So these are same for us. If our 18,000 students were studying there in Ukraine, it speaks volume about our relationship. On the face value, we see Russia as our friend, but Ukraine is also our friend. There are so many trades happening. It's a small country compared to Russia, but we have interest. We had good relations. But strategically, we have to take some calls. We are taking it. But even for the larger interest of the world, this war has to end. Otherwise, it will get into a dirty phase and which will be disastrous for whole world. Will not be good for any country, whether directly involved or indirectly involved. So with this, we will end. Wish for early closure of this war. Hopefully, we learned and discussed many things today, and I enjoyed it. I hope you all have enjoyed it. Shall we end here? We call it a day.
Sir, actually, I'd like to say one thing on the issue of that blowing up of Nord Stream, if I
Yes,
may.
yes, yes,
Sir, US President Joe Biden had explicitly said that on the event of Russia invading Ukraine, US would blow up the Nord Stream pipeline, and
yes,
we have seen that this has happened.
yes. Openly had said, and even the journalist was asking how it will be done,
How will you?
and
Yes,
his facial expressions were, "It will be done."
it
It
will
speaks,
be able to do it.
yes. So it is a clear
And sir,
hint. These all
and the
plans were
very
ready.
next day, sir, Baltic pipeline got activated from
Yes,
Norway to Poland.
yes.
So can we say that it
Pre-planned.
was yeah via Poland
Yes, Poland
because
is
Poland
also
has a NATO
suspicious.
base there.
We can
Poland has a
suspect
NATO
Poland.
base.
We can
Yeah.
suspect because their interest is quite visible. And all these things are indicative that it's not the thing which are visible and audible and in social media. There is something more to it. We are superficially seeing the things. A lot of dirt is there, and vested interests are there. Leaders are taking decisions, but are they really serving the interest of the common people? Is a big question. Now, people should demand end of war. National pride doesn't mean fighting war. Yes, defending one's sovereignty and the territorial integrity is very important, but not at the cost of such a prolonged war. All have to come together. Maybe social media can be used for this, and a campaign, end war or hashtag for ending war, can probably give hints that people are now desiring end of this war, which is affecting whole world. So let's see how things go in correct direction. We wish for it, we pray for it, And because after all, life is lost, is a human life, precious life, whether it is our country or anybody's country. Human life is precious, environment is precious, our mother earth is precious. So we need to protect it, preserve it, and further develop it in correct direction. Okay, we will end here. Have a nice time, enjoy the studies and your routine. Okay, bye. Jai Hind.
Jain sir.
Jane sir.
Bye.